So one of the things that I do hear from teachers fairly often is that when they're getting ready to be out for a day or two and need to leave stuff for a sub, that with the amount of technology use, that can be kind of tricky because you don't know necessarily who your sub is, so you don't know their comfort level, but also how do you get access for the sub? Like if you wanted to leave a video file for them to show the students or something like that, how do you actually get that to them? So what I'm about to show you hopefully is a step toward making that a little bit easier. So already we've had in place for years and years and years sub accounts. So your substitute could log into the presentation center machine, for instance. All I've done is taken that one step further and created a substitute Google account for each building. And now I'm going to walk you through how they and you would access that. So here I am in my Google Drive, and I'm just going to come over here and I'm going to click on shared drives. And again, key thing here, and I've written it in the instructions for the subs too, is that you're clicking on shared drives, not shared with me. Okay, so if I click on shared drives, I've got a bunch in here, but the ones we're looking for, depending on which building you're in, you're going to see one that has your building's name and substitute drive. So for instance, for now, I'm just going to click on the Flanders one first, just because this is a fresh copy. So there's nothing in here yet other than these three documents. So these three documents are in all of the building drives. I put them there for all of you. And what they are is, first of all, you'll find one that has the current sub login information for your building. So if I open that, again, here's the network login. So if they need to log into a Windows PC, this is the username for Flanders, and here's the password for Flanders. And then down below that is the Google Drive login. There's the username, there's the password. This obviously is not going to be any use to a sub if they don't have this information already. This is really here for you. So if I were going to be out tomorrow and I wanted to leave directions for a sub and they included getting into this Google Drive, I'm probably going to want to, before I write down my plans and maybe leave the usernames and passwords for the sub, double check this document and just make sure that the passwords haven't changed. This one is probably unlikely to change more than once a year. This one is probably going to change on a more regular basis, and I'll talk about why in just a minute. So let me close that one up though. And then a couple of other things that you'll see in here. First of all, this document is just kind of a generic set of instructions for subs. And again, I wrote this up with the idea in mind that we never know what comfort level people might have. So this is just a step-by-step. Here's how you actually log in as a substitute to Google Drive. If you needed to print something from the teacher's folder, here's how you would print it, including how do you change to the physical printer, how do you find the printer that's closest to you, all of those things. Okay. And then the last document is actually just something from this summer's PD week. I had done a workshop on Build a Better Sub Plan. And if you're trying to think of how you might use this shared drive and how you might try to make your life easier, make the sub's life easier, this document has some suggestions on how you might do that. So for instance, instead of having to write out step-by-step instructions for a kind of complicated activity, or maybe there's a concept you need to have your students understand before they do an assignment, rather than having the sub try to explain that, you might use a screencasting piece of software like these to create a video, a quick 2-minute, 3-minute video like the one you're watching right now, where you were explaining it, and then have the sub just play that video for them, or put it in Classroom, something like that instead. So this document, again, take a look through it if you want to. It's just some ideas of how you might use this. Here we come back to why that sub password for the Google Drive is probably going to change on a regular basis, though. This is worth noting. Because everybody's materials are in this drive, the substitutes, their accounts, the generic substitute account, is set to can comment. So the sub account can't delete anything from the shared drive. Teachers, TAs, those folks can. You can add stuff, you can delete it from your own folder, that kind of thing. But the sub accounts can't. But it's probably my paranoid nature, but if this username and password were to get out to students, it's not like they could do damage in the sense that they couldn't go in and delete your subplans for the day. But let's say that you did leave a quiz. If students had that username and password, they could potentially, if they had the ambition, they could get in and look at that quiz. Wouldn't really be able to do much with it other than they could print it out. So that's why this one is probably going to change on a regular basis, just to try to minimize the chances of that kind of thing happening. But again, you'll notice here in bold, a good thing to keep in mind is that treat this drive as if it's open to the public. So you definitely do not want to put anything that's confidential or sensitive in that drive, because again, it is open. Okay. And then as far as how to get things in here, it's as simple as you can upload a file. If you've got, let's say you've got your lesson plans or whatever as a Word document, you can upload the file. As long as I have that substitute drive open and I hit file upload, it's going to upload into here. I can also take things from my drive, come down and let's say like this one. If I click and hold and I drag it over here, it'll expand and I can find the drive that I want to drop it in. Okay, and I can put it into my folder. Okay, now speaking of my folder, you notice that when I open up the Flanders one, right now there's no folders in here. As I said, this is a fresh copy, haven't done anything with it yet. But if we take a look at the FA substitute drive, these are people that had come to that workshop over the summer, and I told them one of the first things that you're going to want to do is come in here and create a folder for yourself. So you would just open up that shared drive, click new, and then click on folder. And then my suggestion is keep it consistent. You'll notice that all those folders over here are already just last name, first initial, last name, first name, whatever. Try to make it easy so that a substitute coming in here isn't hunting around trying to figure out which folder is yours. The other thing is, if you teach multiple classes and you want to organize materials, don't do it at this level. Don't do like, M. Dalton Global, M. Dalton US History. Like, try to just put one folder here for me, for Dalton, and then inside that folder, if I wanted subfolders, I could do that. But try to keep this top layer as easy to navigate as possible. Okay, so the substitutes, again, they're going to be able to, you can leave the username and password for them. You've got access to those at any time, again, by clicking on that current sub login info. So you can feel free to leave the usernames and passwords for them with your sub plans. Building secretaries have that information also, so they could get it from them. That might be useful if my absence wasn't planned, so I was at home and couldn't make it into school, but I could get stuff into that Google Drive folder, but I couldn't leave the username and password necessarily for the sub. They could get the username and password from the building secretary as well. Okay, so any questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me. As I said, I'm hoping this is something that can help make your life a little bit easier.